There's still so much on the line this game against Adelaide. You can still mathematically win the premiership, but a win and you're locked in top two as well. I'm sure you don't need to explain to your players how big this is.
Yeah, correct. I think it's been like that for many weeks. Still trying to fight for final spot, second spot. To be honest, all we got to worry about is trying to win. That's the focus. That's been the focus again this week. Being at our very best because we know we're up against a very good side, a team that can score quickly. They've scored a lot of goals. Yeah, sure they've also conceded. So there's some areas that we can attack as well that may help us. But they're desperate. They're desperate to win, to try to get themselves a final spot. So a lot riding on it for sure.
I know you can't really look too far beyond this, but if you can get that top two spot, how special would it be when you think of the injuries this team's been through, the chopping and changing you've had to do, and then this late, I guess, back end of the season where you've managed to turn yourself into one of the form teams. It must be pretty special the way you've picked your season up and run with it.
Well, it's been, I would say it's been a bit of a remarkable season for us in terms of the context of it, and how many injuries we've had, the key players that we've been missing throughout the year. On top of that, the kids coming in and performing at a very good level for us. So I wouldn't say it's an element of luck. Certainly decent planning that put us in a good position when that did happen, that we're able to adjust pretty quickly. So as I said, we still got a hell of a lot to play for. We can't get comfortable. We can't be happy. We'll put ourselves in a really good position, and we still have a bit of work to do.
Aurelio, with that second spot looking like it'll carry with it Asian qualification, you've got a lot of good history in Asian competition, both with Adelaide and I think when you were at Biriam as well, you played in the ACL with Biriam as well. What would it mean to get back to that stage and coach in this new ACL elite once again?
Yeah, I was at BG Patham for that part. Look, it would be absolutely brilliant. First of all, the expectations of a club like Melbourne City is to be forming at that level on a yearly basis. So we put ourselves in a good position to try to attain that. And it's a special competition. Always exciting games. I think since those days, it's moved so differently in terms of prize money. If you look back at the Adelaide days, when we made the final, getting past the group stage, you had to come top. So now it's completely different. The prize money is completely different as well. So it's exciting, and hopefully we can get the right results in the next 2 weeks to give ourselves a good chance to finish second.
Because as you mentioned, that's the expectations of Melbourne City to reach these levels of competition. If you were to qualify, you'd become the first ever Australian side to have both your men's and women's sides competing in Asia in the same season. Would that be a feather in the club's cap?
Yeah, I think it would be. And if I could take a little opportunity to congratulate Michael, his staff, and all the players on a remarkable season. To go the whole season unbeaten is never easy to do that, and for having a coach just coming in his first year to achieve that, he's done a remarkable job. So massive congratulations to all of them. And yes, if we can, on the men's side, if we can also finish second, get a Champions League spot, and go well in the finals, it'll be a very good season for the club.
Aurelio, we were just chatting to Adelaide, who's obviously always been a very highly rated young kid, but has been through that big injury and is now having an impact on his way back. What have you made of the way he's been able to pick himself up and have an impact this year?
Yeah, I think I spoke about that a week or so ago, Anna, and really got to give him full credit because it was never an easy comeback for him because it was a difficult injury. And he put his head down. He's worked extremely hard in the gym. He's worked extremely hard to get himself in a good physical condition. And it always takes, after being out for such a long time, first of all, he was on a really good trajectory through the pre-season, and then he got the injury, and then it obviously it was a big slap in the face for him and for everyone really. But he's worked his way back into it. His first game against Sydney when he came back was very, very, very good, and he's been able to maintain that level over the last couple of weeks. Although it always gets tougher. He's obviously now not as fresh as he was 4 or 5 weeks ago, and that's normal with the more training load, the more games that he's played, and he's fulfilling almost 90 minutes every week for us. So I just expect him to grow. How much more can he give this season? We don't know, but I still think with another pre-season under his belt next year, he's absolutely going to be a much, much better player. And if he can add some more assists to his game and also goals, because he gets himself into really good positions, and sometimes he has to just trust himself to have a shot. For example, the goal that he scored against Sydney from just outside the box, he is capable of doing those things, and I think in time with consistency, he should get that.
When we were chatting with him, Viddy, he mentioned how he went in for surgery, and then an hour before it started, he was told he was getting a completely different type of surgery. What was your reaction when you're sending him in for keyhole surgery, and then you find out he had his whole kneecap taken out and put back in and all that?
Yeah, well, that's always a shock to everyone. MRI shows one thing, but as soon as you go in and open it up a little bit, and then you got a different situation. But we're really thankful the surgery went well. The graft took. It was always in an awkward position for him, because as soon as you start, if you start cutting corners with rehab, especially injuries like that, you have problems, and he was able to be, really focused on making sure that he gets his rehab done properly. Attention to detail with the work he did in the gym, with Andy Barnett, the work that he did off the pitch with the physios and rehab. It was very, very good. It sort of gave him probably a new sense of life, of realising, I think I mentioned that your career can go pretty quickly. You can be unlucky and have a couple of bad injuries early in your career and never fulfil your potential. But I feel like he's got a new lease of life that, he doesn't want to take any more, not that he took any chances, but making every post a winner. So wants to make something out of his career. He's a great guy. He's a lovely kid, great family, listens, wants to learn, puts himself in the training sessions, giving 100%. So, I couldn't speak even more highly than for Ali. So we're expecting good things and bigger things next year.
Just looking to this week, Aurelio, injuries-wise, anyone you get back, anyone in additional that will be missing?
Lex had a really good week at training, so we still got today and tomorrow to have a look at him. Whether he's going to be a week short, not 100% sure, but we'll have a look at him in the next couple of days. Sammy's took a little bit of time for Sammy to get himself going. He still had a little bit of pain in that calf, so he started also running this week. So Sammy definitely won't be this week, with a possibility for the Sydney game, I'd say. And that was it. The rest are on a little bit more longer term.
Just with Lex, if he doesn't get up for this week and you're locking top two, what sort of boost can that give? It's just obviously top two, you get that first week of finals off, you can make some real concerted, not that you haven't been already, make some real concerted decisions around building him towards that, as opposed to if you're in finals, you kind of have to almost not gamble, but throw people straight into the fire.
Yeah, look, if that's the case and we finish second and that gives us an extra week, that obviously will help guys like Lex and Sammy. But, the flip side of that is, you go on another week without a game. So it's it's one of those things. Obviously, we want to finish as high as possible. So, and then we've dealt with buys, international break, and a buy through the course of the season. So I think that area in terms of getting us ready for the next game, even after a break, I think we've got down pretty pat anyway. So yeah, obviously we want those guys in as quickly as possible, but also making sure that when they come back, they come back and they stay.
We spoke before your first game against the Reds this season, Aurelio, about how they've been a bit of a bogey side for your mob, and then 1-0 defeat ensued. Any closer to figuring out the antidote that is Adelaide United?
Well, we beat them here last year 1-0, so and I don't know the stats for the games against them, but they've always been almost impossible to win over there. I think the record here is probably a little bit different. I'm not 100% sure, but we had really good moments in the game against Adelaide. In Adelaide, we just weren't clinical, or we didn't really do much with our work in the forward, in the front third. So we're in a much better place today than we were. I don't know how long ago that was. That was quite a while ago. So we're in a much better place now. So we know we're going to be at our very, very best. As always, there's no gimme games in this competition. We've seen how tight it is right across the board from very first day of the season, and it's going to be like that until the very last day next week. Most teams are fighting for something, and I think it's exciting for the league. And all we can do really is we just want to focus on this game. We focused hard last week on the West Sydney game. That's done and dusted. Now we're thinking about Adelaide, and then hopefully do enough to gain 3 points.
Obviously, you've got a very long history with the club. I imagine you've known Carl Viet for a long time as well. There is a scenario in which you end the Red season with a win this weekend. Is this a week where it's difficult to push sentiment down, or do you find it easy to do that?
Look, I have a hell of a lot of empathy for Carl's situation. I've known Carl for a very long time. He's a good mate. He's been an excellent coach for Adelaide. What he's done with the resources that he's had at the club is been remarkable. I think through that period, the early days, he was really, and the club were really the first team that really started saying, we're going to spend a little bit less. We're going to bring up the kids. The system with the kids in the academy, that they have there is excellent. We've seen that over the number of the years. And then he had, I think it was 3 consecutive prelims that they failed at the last hurdle before the grand final. So he's done a remarkable job. He's a passionate guy. He's a guy who just wants to win all the time. Doesn't matter what it is. A lovely guy. So I feel for him at this moment. But unfortunately, the game is like this. It can be very, very ruthless, and sometimes it can be fair, but sometimes it can be unfair or unjust. So I wish him the best with whatever he does. I think he's a very, very good coach, and hopefully he's not lost to the game. But I have zero sentiment for this weekend.